Hey everybody, welcome back to Is It Kino, your favorite movie review podcast where you yourself can pay us $100 to review any movie, and Homeboy Dream Machine hooked us up again with another William Friedkin classic. This time it's The French Connection, which I somehow got mixed up in my head as The Italian Job, and so I was like, hopefully he's not making us watch the Mark Wahlberg remake. It turns out that doesn't make any goddamn sense what I said. Of course, I am Simian, Jimmy Doyle, joined as always by my partner in hate crime and typical or not so good language about certain groups of people. It is Buddy Russo.
Well, I kind of, listen, I'm going to say it like this, for people who don't know in the audience, I have French ancestry, so I'm feeling a little bit more like Alain Chaunier. It'll be oui, but
the villain of the film, who shockingly, spoiler alert, oh my god, the title cards at the end revealing the fate of all the characters, truly shocking, and we'll get into that. I guess I don't want to spoil it at the very beginning, but this is a film from 1971, and I was delighted to see, like, my main takeaway was, even if it's been 55 some odd years, my ideal version of male friendship still existed. Like, it is truly timeless. It's not just something that came about in the early 2000s. A guy telling his friend to suck his cock and swallow his cum, and the other guy replying, "Okay, take it out." I mean, that's classic, hilarious, best friend stuff, and I was delighted to see it in here.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of what translates from the film to the modern day, the environment really, when we're watching things before like Combat Shock and we're seeing the New York City of this time period that's supposed to be so particularly gritty and grimy, it's really the touchstone for when the opioid epidemic and everything was really getting its feet in the door. I mean, it kind of took a little bit of time off for crack and everything, but even in the modern New York City, plastered in Dominican cell phone tower shops and all different kinds of things, people are still sitting out on the sidewalk on the corner. It's still as dirty as ever. It felt like, if the vehicles had been a little more modern looking, it was like just the last time I was in Brooklyn, or Queens for that matter. So something about the spirit of New York City. I feel like I don't like to like it, but it's definitely it definitely hangs around, regardless of what era that we're in.
And that seems to be the theme of William Friedkin's movies, at least what we've watched so far, is such a gritty, dirty realism that it makes you wonder how the movie was even made, because it just feels like they're actually filming in an actual dangerous situation. And the standout scene in this movie is the main guy, Popeye, Jimmy Doyle. He steals somebody's car to chase a subway that's been taken over by a madman, and just like the POV shots of the car driving into oncoming traffic through all these dirty New York streets that are under a subway. Did they get permits, or did they just go fucking crazy because it's the early 70s and I don't know what drugs they were on, but William Friedkin just wanted to do anything to get the shot?
Well, I do have a blurb about the scene pulled up here, so I could consult that here in a moment, but I do just want to say, I'm certainly no cinema expert by any means. I definitely have a lot of classics that are out there that I have not seen, I'm ignorant of. But for us to watch two Friedkin films like this in a relatively short time frame, I also have a takeaway with that particular scene and the magnificence of that scene, that we're having the previous picture, Sorcerer, having such a monumental scene. Not even that it had to do with the vehicle as well. I mean, coincidentally, it did have to do with the vehicle and driving and stunt drivers and so on. But
and a bridge.
Just these two epics within the pictures back to back. I don't know if this was something. But once again, I'm more ignorant of Friedkin's body of work than I would like to be. But I just don't know. Is this something that is maybe just he happened to hit a couple home runs, or is this typical for his pictures? Do you have an idea?
These are the only ones I've seen, I believe. He also did that bitch who gets taken over by Satan, The Exorcist. Is that the movie? Maybe we'll watch that next for free.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
I'll throw that on the PCP and let the people decide if we want to watch it. Put that one up against Lolita, And some real classics of young girl cinema, and let the people vote, and then they can be the sickos for whatever version of demented young woman they want to see.
I will just take this quote from the scene that I think really speaks to the way that these films have come together, this film in particular, that the realism factor of it. Quote, other shots from that point of view bumper angle involve stunt drivers who were supposed to barely miss Doyle's car, but due to timing errors, accidental collisions occurred. These were left in the film.
Are those minor bumps? Are you telling me the huge damage done to the car was a mistake? Because that's insane. Surely those were all planned.
Well, yeah, I would like to think so, because there's definitely those few particularly significant collisions that then sort of add to the... I'll say what I said while we were watching the film at this moment. I said, this is Grand Theft Auto 4. I've played more of that recently than Grand Theft Auto 5, I don't know, but starting a new game in GTA 4, when you have like Nico's first apartment and you come out and you have like this 2-lane road and there's like an overpass nearby or whatever, it looks very, very similar to this environment that is kind of captured in this car chase and this train chase here. And these might be based upon, or I should say the game might be based upon this area in New York at this time. And seeing the car suffer such collision damage and then continue to function, he's doing like 180 turns in the road and different stuff. It definitely gave me some strong GTA vibes, coming from a real gamer background. But
yeah, I don't think any live-action GTA movie could ever touch that scene in terms of adapting like the game into cinema. And this came out, 5 decades before. Could they do a better follow the train CJ scene than the Italian, or fuck goddamn Italian job, than the French Connection?
Well, it's funny because speaking of that, there's a sequence that precludes the chase where Doyle he's got Charnier, he's trying to track him on the subway. And they kind of have this cat and mouse thing where he's trying to not be so obvious, but Shawnee kind of keeps on coming out, throws something in the garbage, goes back in, then he kind of comes out and goes back in, and then he's kind of trying to stay on his trail by going in and out of a nearby subway car, the adjacent subway car, I should say. And then he uses the end of an umbrella, I think it is, or cane, to hold the door open at the last moment and ends up evading him. So at that moment, I said, as we were watching, I was like, "Oh, you just had to follow the damn train," But more like the subway. The next one's really more like the real train, and maybe it's the same mechanisms, but either way.
And then right before this epic chase, we get a gnarly scene where there's a sniper up on the roof of a building trying to shoot our hero, but he misses and shoots like a young mother pushing her baby in a stroller. Just this woman just gets eliminated. I didn't know they were doing that kind of gnarly shit, back then. I thought, maybe that's a late 70s thing. Did this, 'cause didn't they have rules back in the day? Like you can't just murder a young woman on screen. Maybe this was right after like the Hays Code or something.
No, I think the Hays Code.
When was that? Because I know Lolita, because I just listened to a podcast about the making of Lolita. That's why I keep bringing it up as some sicko shit. But that movie was very much affected by the Hays Code.
It was done away with in 1967, and then in 1968 it was replaced with the film rating system that we know today. So
yeah, this movie was just in time to do some hardcore edgy shit.
Yeah, I will say, definitely, even the theatrical poster. I don't know if you've seen it here. It's depicts the conclusion of the train chase where Doyle is firing his shot into the man who's chasing here. So I mean, they were certainly not trying to hide any bit of the violence in this film. And there's even besides that, because it's graphic in the way that, we definitely see the woman go to the ground and there's a lot of commotion, but there's also other portions of the film where the violence doesn't make any qualms about, like some bloodiness being depicted as well. So this film, I think that, and then combined also with, I just felt like the way that the film was kind of lined together, the different sequences. It's sort of it's not particularly leading, maybe is the right way I'd like to say that. Like you definitely feel so immersed. Like it doesn't feel like there's clear defined points, but it's kind of in a good way. It's sort of like you feel like you're really there shadowing some of the events that are going on. It doesn't need to be so blatant with some of its messaging. You kind of feel just immersed in the suspense of it all in a way that I feel like I haven't seen from some of the pictures that I don't know if we've seen a real thriller lately, but this definitely had like a little more subtlety, a nuance that I feel like I haven't seen lately.
I would say in terms of a theme and messaging, this most closely resembles, and people probably don't want me to do this comparison because they have not seen it yet, but it's a little movie called Mass State Lottery, made by our friend Lorez, and both of these movies are about a scumbag detective who may or may not be extremely racist and, you know, brutalizing blacks in a bar just because, hey, why not? I'm in charge here, bucko. And the idea of sometimes it takes a scumbag guy who's on the side of right to get into the mindset of a villain to take down a criminal on the side of wrong. That's very much the message of Mass State Lottery. And here is... I'm not going to spoil Mass State Lottery, even though I already did. But let's just say I am going to spoil this one, so 12 minutes in, you've been warned. But in The French Connection, it ends with, we think our hero, Popeye, he's so dedicated, he's so obsessed with getting this guy that he's accidentally shooting other police officers in the climax. The movie ends, he walks into a room where we think the bad guy is, we hear a gunshot, the movie freezes. And I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch, we're not gonna, it's ambiguous Inception ending. We don't know if he shot the guy or if the guy shot him. But then in the title cards, we see the bad guy got away and the two detectives were like transferred to a new department. So is the implication he shot yet another cop, Aggie? And like the bad guy, the villain, gets away with all of it. The whole thing. So at least in Mass State Lottery, the ends justify the means in a way. In this case, it was all for nothing.
I'll give it a slightly different reading here. There's really no reason to believe this reading, but I would like to think perhaps, obviously a shot was fired, and that's all we certainly know. I would like to believe that in a true reading of police corruption, I think that Mr. Frog, Sean Ye, I think he got his splacked. Okay, I think he got executed. He got annulled.
The movie tells us he got away.
He was never caught. He was believed to have gotten away and returned to France. Oh, well, are we going to go over to France and look for him? Or did a cop just shoot a guy who he's had a grudge against?
You say Popeye gave him a burial at sea, Osama bin Laden style.
Exactly.
We just can't see the body. Yeah, no, he's gone.
That's kind of, I did think about it a little bit, and maybe if this was a different time, maybe if I saw this around the time that the picture was released and it wasn't, after the fact, where maybe we had a very rich island-owning man who somehow did something with toilet paper when all the cameras were cut, and where is he at? We don't know. He's just disappeared and vanished. When there's certain things that kind of provoke thought now that I've seen in my lifetime, I have to think, okay, if you got a guy that you're willing to blindly fire into silhouettes and essentially kill, your own peers in your fervorish chase. There's a lot going on. You have a right to be very on edge and very tense at this point in time. I think once you get your eye on him, you fire. Who cares what the consequences come with it? I think this is also not uncommon that you have a police officer or a officer of the law, could be in a different department, a certain whatever, who has a malpractice or a bad behavior in their sector then you could transfer them. I think we've heard about this before in different circumstances in our real lives as well. So
Catholic
that was
Church
just my
does the
reading
same
of it.
thing.
Yeah.
At Catholic Church, police stations, who else will just take the bad eggs and transfer them somewhere else to do more bad shit there? Yeah, and if Popeye here did just shoot another, like he shot 2 cops point blank, by mistake. The fact that he's not arrested and he's just transferred, that's pretty fucked up as well.
And that could lend some weight to my supposing as well, perhaps, like, okay, we're going to just basically need to clear you out. We're going to have to, just kind of sweep this under the rug in general. Maybe you could say, what was that, 3 Nights in Winston, Missouri, or whatever that movie, or 3 Billboards?
In Ebbing, Missouri?
Yeah, there's a police corruption angle there also. I was going to say how, like, the CEO of Monsanto becomes, like, the leader of the FDA or whatever, and then, like, switches back to the CEO of Pepsi. Like, they do stuff like that, like, in the government and the corporations as well, with lobbying and all that stuff. So that's just my, I don't know if that's a common theory or if there's something that obviously disputes this that I didn't pick up on, but that's just how I felt.
I think when a director does an ambiguous ending, they probably appreciate it when people come up with unique ideas and perspectives and shit. And yeah, for all we know, you just listed something that Roger Ebert said 100 years ago. So hey, right. Great minds might think alike. Speaking of which, I wrote down some of the choice things that Mr. Popeye was saying about his fellow humans. He says, never trust an N-word, which, that's a blanket statement that personally I don't think is fair.
What kind of surprised me, I guess, was that he puts that out there, and then he does have further interactions with, like, black
There's
guys.
Like an undercover guy who's black on his side, and he has to pretend to beat the shit out of him in the black bar to keep him undercover. That was pretty good.
So, yeah, you think he's all like just a one-dimensional character, but you see that he's got more smarts than you might be depicted with initially. Or maybe that's all in line of an intelligent man, but either way.
What about this one, Eggy? He says Jews all look the same without numbers across their chest. Now that's a joke I've never heard before. That's brutally good.
And obviously, once again, it shows that he's not really prejudiced because the tattoos were on the arms. Okay, last time I checked, might have been on the wrist. I mean, they had a lot of numbers. This was 25
years after the Holocaust. He's so close to it. I guess, it's the same as us making 9/11 jokes today, but I don't know.
But I will say, for my enhanced, background in all the most esoteric racism and things of that nature, that was actually new to me. So it's hard to get me to find a new way to be prejudiced, and you helped me do that. So appreciate it.
Yes. That might be the only ones I wrote down, other than it says drink this while stroking. Roy, I can't get his name right because I always want to say Schneider for Dan Schneider, but no, it's Roy Scheider, who we also saw recently. He was in the Sorcerer, wasn't he? Yeah, and he was also in Jaws that I saw for the first time recently. So I'm getting so much Roy this year, and I liked him as the partner here. Yeah, sort of a straight man to the wild craziness of Mr. Popeye, Mr. Jimmy. Well, I imagine that a guy named Jimmy who has an alternate ego, alt personality. Should I start eating spinach, Eggy?
I need it. I've due to all my gambling winnings, I've really made sure to take in a lot more greens lately. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts have been my 2 go-tos, but if I could be just like Jimmy Doyle behind the wheel, I'm probably going to be the one driving us in Florida coming up here, so I better eat my spinach so I get some of those sick driving skills. They never know what you got to operate around in Florida, man.
Yeah, we can chase a Florida subway.
Chase a gator.
Anything else from this movie that we should definitely get into before we forget?
Well, the cinematography I really enjoyed. It might kind of feel like it was almost a cheat code to get really good cinematography in New York City in this time period, because even with like Taxi Driver, Deer Hunter, it just had such an inherent sort of feel to it that they might not have even necessarily been trying to capture to such a degree as how I read into it now, because it it was just how it was. You know, that was just how it looked, and it's but the shots and the color was good. Um, all the acting was definitely on point for me. Um, the chase was, I think, probably for every person who's ever watched the film, definitely like a peak in both the film itself and then just, I'm sure, in the period, it was just a remarkable scene.
Another standout scene is they're sort of undercover at the black bar, and they have Roy Scheider outside to distract the black children, the black youth, and he's wearing a Santa Claus outfit, which of course leads to a chase scene through the gritty, grimy streets of New York with one guy in a Santa costume. And I have to imagine, I mean, I don't know how it works. Maybe all the people in cars are extras and it's all planned, but maybe some people just saw a guy in a Santa costume running around. I don't know how movies are made back then. Were there permits and rules? Maybe for some directors. I don't know for this one. Did we see it in your pamphlet or whatever if they said it was illegally filmed or if they zoned off huge city streets of New York?
Well, what I can say is it was, once again, significantly over budget. It was contracted with a $1.5 million budget, and it came in at $1.8 million. So they might have had a little bit of extra, money to throw around. I don't think if I have anything here, blurbs that specify necessarily, but there is an excerpt here that I think is poignant to how I was saying there's sort of like almost a nuance and subtlety in how realistic it was put together. It says here, Friedkin did an audio commentary for the collector's edition DVD, and an excerpt of it here. After seeing Costa Gavra's film Z, I realized I could shoot The French Connection because he shot that film like a documentary. It was a fiction film, but he made it look like it was happening, like the camera didn't know what was going to happen next. That is an induced technique. It looked like he had happened upon the scene and captured it like a documentary. My first films were documentaries also, so I understood what he was doing. But I did not think you could do it in a feature until I saw his film. So I just read that for the first time now, just for the record. But
that really explains the realism feel to the movies. He's trying to make it specifically like he just happened upon it.
Well, and I like to harken back to, because I think we're going to be watching this film for a review soon, but Cannibal Holocaust, maybe that was the first time I brought it up, was when we watched Sorcerer. And he did do that film after this film, so that if he was going to have that technique of this sort of realistic component that might blur the line between a fiction and documentary, maybe that this was introduced to him first here and he had this picture to kind of get it together. I felt it certainly in Sorcerer, and I haven't seen Cannibal Holocaust in some years, but I think it's going to be involved in that film also. Hopefully I'm not wrong on that. But.
Well, speaking of the real gritty truth of the world, Aggie, right before we watched this movie, we went over to a gas station called Casey's, and I believe a woman in front of you in line had something straight out of a movie like this, something straight out of perhaps Good Time. Could you paint this scene for us, Aggie? Because this is hard to believe, and it kind of makes my blood boil.
I was a previous gas station cashier of many, many years. I could tell you this is not as uncommon as you might think.
God.
But yes, so picture the scene here, folks. There's a nice gal. She's a nice cashier at Casey. She's wearing about 3 masks, and she got like.
Why is she still wearing a mask? I know who you're talking about. And she looks very young, but her name tag says she's worked there for 9 years. So it's like she started when she was 14. But whatever. And
I'm just gonna say, just one other point of context here. The other cashier that's usually there is like a heavy-set man who watches illegal sports streams on his phone while he's behind the cash register and is calling out plays. So I might like him more, but anyways, it's not particularly relevant here. So picture the scene. I took a little bit extra time. Jimmy, he was already checking out at the cash register, but I saw there was a deal on Mountain Dew and Doritos if you bought them at the same time. So I had to try that new Cabo Citrus or whatever it's called, Cabo Citrus. That was really good. And the new Taco Doritos, they were so they're not putting as much seasoning powder these days. So I got in line, and in front of me was a woman probably about 40 years of age. And obviously she was having, I wasn't, right over her shoulder and paying attention to everything, but she seemed to be having some sort of issue. And then I hear the woman, the cashier, say, well, you can't purchase that with food stamps, it has to be a debit card or cash. And then the woman, she was kind of speaking softly, but she seemed to be a little bit argumentative, and then stepped to the side and started calling somebody on her cell phone.
Well, she needed a third party to help her out here. She wouldn't just take no for an answer.
She was probably going to say, hey, Billy Bob, can't get this today. I need you to go cash.
Yeah, the scam you came up with after you smoked that meth pipe. It turns out it's not going to work.
So I step forward with my Doritos and my Mountain Dew, and then I see the cashier with a stack of scratch-off tickets that were all piled up, and she's sticking them like back into the slots like after they were already torn off. So
isn't that super illegal? Are you allowed to put them back in after you rip them off?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
And the same thing too.
You can't scan the back and then put it back in if it's a loser?
No, well, because you tore it off, it could still be purchased. And that, but with Powerballs and stuff like that, when you print it off, some people be like, "Oh, let me get 2 Powerballs," and then their card, whatever, they don't have the cash, whatever. If you have a Powerball printed off and nobody buys it by drawing time, you have to like go through this whole process where it's like gets invalidated, stuff like it was a winner, then they back and stuff like that. So that's a real pain in the ass. If you're out there buying Powerballs, make sure you got your money, 'cause it's a pain in the ass for gas station employees to deal with. But I mean, my main thing would be when I worked at Quick Star back in the day, the welfare would come in on the first of the month, I think it was, and it would come in at midnight. So at 11:30 p.m., you would have a lot of very loud and badly smelling women wearing Cookie Monster pajama pants that would all start congregating. And as soon as it would turn midnight, they would be at the ATMs and cashing out their child support. And they would all be coming up to buy cartons of Newport cigarettes and lots of packs of Swisher Sweets.
Now, let's say Popeye Doyle walked in to your Quick Star at that night. Would he be upset with the types of people he sees, or would he be like, no, they're fine?
I mean, I don't know who would possibly be not upset, because they were just really... There was one lady who she was pretty nice. I think she got addicted to fentanyl now.
Okay, I'll change the question. Would Popeye trust these people? Because there's some people he says never to trust.
Well, I will say these were largely Caucasian populations.
Okay, trustworthy. So, by the Popeye scale.
By the Popeye scale,
yes.
too, yeah. I think any further interaction you might reconsider, but yeah. By the Popeye scale, very trustworthy.
Was the woman at Casey's the other day also white? All methed out with her teeth missing?
She was about like 5'2" with long dark hair. I didn't really get a good look at her face, because even when she walked away, it was all from the backside.
Not that it matters what anybody's race is, of course. I wanted to make sure that the stereotype was not true, so that we could wave that in the face of racists and say, no, actually, it was white people the whole time.
And furthermore, actually, an African-American man once sold me his food stamp card for half off on 50 cents on the dollar. This is when I was in college, 50 cents on the dollar. Paid him cash so he could buy cigarillos and cigarettes, and then I got like 500 or however much it was on food stamps for 50 cents on the dollar. I was eating like a king for cheap that particular week. So
if any listeners out there want to make that same deal, hit Aggie up. It's oneaggiewhite@gmail.com or something like that.
Yeah, one egg white. But yes, you might need to be a loco, but I get hollered at on the street sometimes by people yelling egg car windows. There's a good chance one of you's out there and you're on food stamps, so hit me up.
Should we use your scooter to film a similar scene to the chase scene in this movie? Because we could just be like swerving in and out of traffic on your 15-mile-an-hour scooter. Might not be fast enough.
I think I'm about to get like another $1,000 deposit tomorrow. I haven't owned a GoPro in quite a while, so maybe I could latch my GoPro onto the front of the scooter.
Yeah, or we could just take my $1,000 camera and just hope that we don't crash and die. Because I'm planning for the Vincent series. I do want a shot of Vincent on a roller coaster, so I was going to sneak my camera into Adventureland and have you film me from in front, but we'll see how that goes. If you lose the camera, I mean, we could duct tape it to your hand. That might be a good idea.
Well, I was just, I saw the film Final Destination Bloodlines recently, and it spurred me to go on a Final Destination rewatch. I think it's the 5th film.
Oh, E-Rich did the same thing. Maybe you two should do a full Final Destination series podcast. Bonus content.
That's right. Anyways, the thing that spurs everyone to die in Final Destination 5 is they sneak a video camera onto a roller coaster and it falls down and like knocks the vault loose or whatever and kills everybody.
Oh God! Oh no! Yeah, they're gonna be pissed if they see what we're trying to do. But you know what? Like Jackass said, pain is temporary, film is forever. If you happen to drop my camera and it destroys the tornado roller coaster and we go flying off the tracks, as long as the shot is good and we're still breathing, it was worth it. Say that to Ryan Dunn.
Hey, you know what? If Walt Disney's still frozen somewhere, I'm sure they could just hold my brain for a little bit and figure out what to do with it. I'll be one of those Futurama jarheads. It's all good.
I think he said he wants to be thawed out once a certain group of people have numbers on their chest again. I don't know what he meant by that. That Walt Disney was a real genius, many people have said.
If my close personal friend Hassan Piker has anything to say about it, I heard it's coming up, but either way.
Any other standout scenes that we forgot to mention? We got the Santa Claus running around, great chase scene. Sniper scene was awesome.
I like the scientist guy, like he's like calling out like a sports commentator, like is the purity of the heroin is like further. He's like, oh, it's 110, you're gonna get it in 120. Oh, money's plenty. 130. Oh yeah, it's not at all dirty. 140. Oh, you're feeling sporty or whatever. Like I enjoyed that part for sure.
There's a scheme with an imported car that has the heroin hidden inside one of its. You have to really take apart you have to literally take it apart at the seams to find this hiding place. And I wonder if maybe Better Call Saul was inspired by some of these scenes, because Better Call Saul has lots of long, thoughtful scenes of Mike taking apart a car to try to find something inside of it. And then I was trying to guess what was going to happen in the following scenes, because they find the heroin, but then they put the car back together perfectly somehow after completely tearing it apart, inch by inch. They fix it, and it's not really noticeable. And I thought, oh, did they take it out so that when he takes it, the bad guys take the car for the drug deal? It's gonna go wrong. But no, they just had the confirmation. They let the drug deal go through, and then they wait at the other end of the bridge to arrest him. It didn't really play out very well because the guy gets away. So, in retrospect, maybe not a great plan. Maybe they should have replaced it with bombs, and then all the drug dealers get exploded.
Yeah, I mean, if the theory that Sean Ye, if the theory that he just got capped in the end anyway, I don't know, maybe it would have been too magnificent to have it all blow up. But it kind of seemed like, they were maybe not thinking as many steps ahead as they should have. Like, I think, they could have had a contingency plan in place for if the drugs were located and determined to be what they were suspected to be.
Or a plan for if the guy, finds the cops waiting for him on the bridge and turns around and runs. Like, maybe we should have planned for that one.
I was expecting that there was going to be, it was going to be like that, like they were going to have him in, but quite the case, no. Which that once again kind of leads into like the GTA feel of you'll be in pursuit still, like if you would be in a situation like level in the game, the pursuit's going to continue, but they're not necessarily going to be so intelligent as to really have you locked off from the very beginning.
Did we finish your story with the woman at Casey's completely? Like, she just wanted to get the scratch off. Did she call anybody to help her out?
I think by the time I finished my transaction, she was out the front door.
She gave up.
So I kind of like when I went outside. That's why I kind of let us walk like about 10 to 15 feet before I started proclaiming about it, because for all I knew, she was still standing right behind me.
She's going down the street to the Tobacco Outlet Plus to try it again there. See if they have some retard 18-year-old working.
Yeah, you can't be having them 9-year-long employees. You got to have the new hires. You got to sweeten the deal a little bit for them. Maybe, maybe buy them a ticket. Be like, all right, look, buy this one and put this one in your pocket too, and then through.
Well, Eggy, would you recommend The Common Man, even though we might have spoiled the whole thing? Should the layman check out a movie from 55 years ago?
Yeah, I think, the premise is, as it stands today in 2025, it's a simple enough premise. We hear about these drug operations a lot more often now. I think really the 70s and 80s, which was to come after this film, we saw some of the great American drug kingpins, some of the great controversies and scandals to do with drug smuggling. This was really the beginning of it, possibly. I would like to think anyway, for the modern American landscape, the 60s, end of the 60s, early 70s, and so on.
And I just got a brain blast, Aggie. If we wanted to make a modern day remake of this, if we translate, the type of male friendship is exactly the same. Another thing we could translate, maybe instead of the French connection, this becomes the Chinese connection. And instead of all of that beautiful, sweet, sweet heroin, I mean, what's the Chinese connection going to be hooking us up with? Probably fentanyl. That's the drug of the day, 55 years later, from heroin to fentanyl. Do we make the Chinese connection starring you and me? I'm Jimmy, Popeye, some other parody name, and you could be whoever. Can you be playing Curly from the Three Stooges as Popeye's detective partner? Is that the single greatest film anybody's ever thought of? Is Popeye Doyle, Curly, stopping Chinese fentanyl?
I mean, these are American heroes that we need now more than ever. So
I think I just fell in love. Once AI can make any movie, I'm making this one. If we don't shoot it ourselves.
I'm down for it. And I guess as I think about it now, I mean, was there like a great drug smuggling epic? Even if it had come out prior to this film, I just don't think they would have had the same background as that gritty 1970s New York. So even though, like I said, the premise, it might not be so incredible and so extraordinary these days, since so much of this was our reality following the film's production. But like I said, the nuance, the subtlety, the direction, the suspense, the realism, the color of the film, I say that again, because the shots and everything are fine, but there's just a perfect grading to the film that I think really is very pleasant to look at. The acting is good. Everything really lands for me, so even though it's not such a deep psychological picture, I think for what it is, it's very enjoyable, especially if you're into a detective film as well. It's definitely got that going for it.
No, I've decided that French Connection is dog shit and Chinese Connection is the movie to look out for. Because if we're doing the Curly angle and we want that POV shot of, the car chase or going into traffic, is Curly not the perfect person to be on an electric scooter, literally driving into traffic of people who don't know they're in our movie, and you're doing your GoPro shot, and I'm filming it from the sidewalk, and
lifts up the floor like of the. I'll like lift up the seat of the scooter and have like a Ziploc bag of flour and be like,
yeah, they start barking like a dog. Are you willing to put your life on the line and potentially crash into cars going 50 miles an hour on your scooter for the sake of this film?
Around here, I literally drive everything perfect, and they still try to kill me. So it's no different for me than what it already is.
I should just film your usual drive, and yeah, it's basically Curly's hijinks, just your everyday normal life. Do we get Weekend Warrior to play the Chinese because he loves them so much?
Hey, I got like $500 of Delta Sky miles. I mean, how much could it possibly be to fly him across the entire world? I'm sure it's fine.
It's the magic of movie making. He could probably just do the voice.
That's true.
So let us know in the comments if you would like to see the Chinese Connection coming soon. If anything, we could probably do a 5-minute short film version of what it would be.
I'll let him dub my lines while I pull my eyes back with my fingers. And I'll be the Chinese guy too.
If I'm doing a tribute to the classic character Popeye Doyle, am I allowed to say the things he was saying on screen? I did read Gene Hackman was very troubled by the character and felt bad about playing him, and he said it was very difficult. And I feel like it would be the exact opposite. I think it would be the greatest moments of my life when I get to wear his shoes and embody his persona. So, am I a better actor than Gene Hackman even? I mean, that's a question to be answered when we make this film. Because I won't be acting. I mean, no, I'll be... What did I say? What?
It's funny, it's kind of a joke these days, something like that gets said, then, the script said, hey, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Why'd you say that?
No, I see too many people unironically thinking, it's the bad guy. It's okay if he's murdering people and stuff, but if he's racist, it's too far. Are you kidding me? You really think that's what's that much worse? That's why I don't go on Twitter that much anymore. It's just like, oh, let's see the dumbest opinions possible and get mad. I guess I'll read a book instead.
That's right.
Go read some One Piece. Speaking of which, we do have One Piece volume, what is it, 42 that we're reviewing today, Aggie?
Answered everything in the universe, as I recall, from another great book that you all should read. You probably did when you were 11 years old, but you know what? If you weren't there, or you're one of these Zoomers that only knows phone screens, you know what? Maybe you better go check it out.
And if you would like to force us to watch any other William Friedkin movies, or really any other movies at all, you can pay us to do an Is It Kino podcast like this one, or a couch reaction review. Email me, simianjimmybusiness@gmail.com. Pitch your idea. It's only $100 if we say yes. Aggie, do you have anything you want to plug this week?
Well, all I'm going to say is, I don't know when this video is releasing, but we're getting up to some Floridian shenanigans soon. So I would say if you're in this point in the video here and you're hearing that out, make sure to keep your eyes peeled for that goodness. It's on the way.
Yeah, somebody paid for a couch video that we realized, oh, Rusty would be good for this. So one lucky guy, really, you get really, really lucky if you support Mumkey and Aggie, because one lucky guy just might get a Rusty crossover in his $100 request review. So stay tuned for that one. Rusty may or may not don blackface, okay? I'm just saying, it might happen. It's happened a shocking number of times in the past, so who's to say it won't happen again?
Mainstream and publicly, socially beloved comedian Samuel Hyde. He's got a new show coming out, World Peace 2, where he literally dipped himself into a tar vat to play a clone of Steve Harvey. So
oh my gosh!
Again,
that's crazy.
He's dripping black goo because the blackface is so thick, on the set.
Could he breathe? I'd be scared it would harden over my mouth.
He looks well. I might be hyperbolizing a little bit here, but he's literally the darkest shade of black that I've ever seen a human be.
Fucking tartar baby. That's I have to watch this. And he's doing his Steve Harvey impression. Does he have a big mustache?
I think the black face is so black. I think he has a mustache, but it literally just looks like eyes and teeth. Okay. It's coming out June 18th. That might release the day we get back, maybe.
Damn, so we can't watch it with Rusty and make him pay for it. I assume on Gumtree or whatever.
I guess technically we're still gonna if it releases at midnight, because that's the day I think we're gonna leave. If I understand correctly, if I remember right. Or to be honest, I think I could probably change it. I could probably change our itinerary and stay for an extra day if we wanted to. But
not for that.
But if it releases at midnight, I think we'll have time to watch some of it before we head out.
4 nights on Rusty's couch might be even one night too many as it is. Hey folks, I think that's all we got for you this time. Special bonus Is It Kino episode. Stay tuned. We gotta do the Cannibal Holocaust coming up. And so many more movies to review. Aggie, I'll leave it with you.
All right, well, folks, do not traffic $32 million worth of drugs. Take that $32 million to the casino, put it all on Red, because that's Red Redemption. That's the other game Rockstar made besides Grand Theft Auto. Think about it.